In order to use project scheduling, the first step is to assign activities to the project, and that's part of the scheduling process as well. So to do that, we can go to our scheduling tab and go to the project. So we can select on the schedule option here, and that's going to open up our list of all of our different projects, and so I'll select on this particular project. And when I do that, I can see some different templates that I have set up, as well as this particular project. And so what I need to do is set up these templates so that I can select them, or I can add activities manually to each of these projects. And so if I just want to use one of the templates that I've already got set up and then adjust it, I can select on it and say these are the items that I need, and I can go and I can adjust any of those items as needed. So when I do that, I can select on and say this is my initial starting point. So I'm going to say this is a small project, and I'll just go ahead and say schedule a project. I can schedule from start to finish, so I'm going to start it on this particular day, or I can say finish to start and say it needs to be finished by a certain day, and then I can adjust my end date to suit, or my start date to suit where it's actually going to fall in the schedule, and that's going to play into our scheduling down the road. But for now, all we're looking at is getting our activities added to the project. So I'm going to say this is a small project and schedule a project, and that's going to apply those activities to that project. Now if I go back in there and look at that particular project again, I can see when I select on this particular one that I have my different activities assigned to that. And so now if I wanted to adjust that and say this particular activity, I can change what's required for this particular one, or change what activity this is. So maybe it's going to be 8 hours here, and this one's going to be a shorter field dimensions. It's a simple project. I can adjust any of those things and change out how that's set, and schedule my activities accordingly. And those hours are only going to affect when I actually go to schedule the project. For now, if all I'm looking for is the activities so that I can record project time tracking against them, then these hours and settings really don't matter. So I can go ahead and set that up, adjust that, and then hit schedule project again, and it'll update my information for that particular project. And so there I can see my changes that I've made and the details around there. So that's how I go and I create my schedule, or assign my activities to that particular project. As far as setting up those activities, the defaults for those, like the large project, small project, I can do that under company data and under project schedule templates. And so if I want to go in and adjust those, I can go into project schedule templates, and that'll open up my templates. And so here I can see my different templates, and I can say create a new template or edit an existing template. And so if I say create a new template, I would give it a new name. And so this is my new project. Maybe it's a residential project. And so it's going to have certain activities, and I want to add those activities in there. And so we'll just say this is a new activity. I can set it up to a particular department, which I can set up under my department setup here. So if it's related to a particular department, which shifts those are related to, and which shift is the primary, and how much time is going to be required for that particular activity. So I'm going to say on this activity, I'm going to include 2 hours for that, and say save and close. And so now I have my new activities and how that's set. For the scheduling, I can specify how these activities are set up, so what predecessors are. So if I say for field dimensions have to happen after shop drawings, and so I might say shop drawings are my predecessor for this, and this is a finish to start or start to finish, depending on what type of activity this is. So from shop drawings to field dimensions, that's going to be a finish to start, and my lag time, I'm going to give the contractor 14 days in order to approve those, and that's going to adjust my schedule accordingly. Any comments that I want to include on there, or if this particular activity goes across the entire project, maybe it's just a management activity, and I want to schedule that management activity, then that's going to show up in my all the way across the project, and so maybe it spans the project. And I can adjust how that's set up. Once I have my template set up here, I can say save and exit, and that's going to add that as a new activity template for this particular project, or available for all of my future projects. And so there I can see my my existing one. If I wanted to edit that and say change out which activities and how that particular one is being adjusted, how those hours are assigned, or any of the other information about that, I can go here and say edit existing, modify that, and save that. And so now when I go back to my schedule and say schedule that project, if I wanted to schedule this one, for example, I can see now I have this additional item with my new activities in there. And so if I wanted to assign that again, I could say schedule project with that new activity template. So now that I've got my template assigned, I can go and I can actually track my time against that project. And so when I go into time clock here, I can log in same way that I would for payroll. And this time I'm going to clock in, and I'm going to say I've clocked into payroll. So in the morning I'm going to clock in once for payroll, and now I'm going to say I'm going to clock into a particular project task. So now I'm going to get started on a particular project, and I want to track my time against that project. Then I can go and track that in. And so here's my list of all the different projects that I have. I can search for what project I'm looking for. But I'm going to select on this particular one. And here I can see my different activities that I've got. And so I can specify which activity that I'm clocked in on. And so here I can see that's the activity that I'm working on. If I am just done that activity and I'm going to go do some unrelated project, some activity that's not related to projects, I could just clock out, or I could go back here and say clock into a different project task. And so I'm going to select on this one, and so now I'm going to go and I'm going to work on my next activity here, and go ahead and confirm that. And so there I can see what I'm clocked into, and when I'm done, when I'm clocked in and I'm going to go and do my work now, I can say finished, and then I can always come back in and say clock out of that particular activity. I'm done my field dimension application.